And this is review. Who could tell me the general characteristics of the kingdom Protista? Whoops. Anybody? Yes. They are eukaryotic. Well, there I did it again. Know that from here on until the final exam, every kingdom is going to have cells with a nucleus. The only ones that didn't have a nucleus were prokaryotes. I mean bacteria.
It's heterotrophic.
Good. They feed both ways. Some make their own food, some need to consume food. What else? Mostly unicellular. However, thank you, they're found in colonies, so they're usually grouped up. It's like a survival skill. Yes. Good. And they can move. And again, some exceptions exist. Some protists are actually multicellular. Some protists cannot move. But the general characteristics of all protists are motile and unicellular. So we're going to focus on those. So there's three main groups of protists. And I don't know how many of you noticed I had put the notes up yesterday, but you could have used them to finalize and perfect your projects. They are protozoans, algae, and slime molds. What do you think is going to be the characteristics that's going to differentiate these three groups? Good. The way they eat, because it's the only thing that shows both. So, looking at the names, who could tell me one group method of feeding? Raise your hand. Good. Who? Awesome. Slime molds. We call them fungus-like protists. And they are light decomposers. They absorb their food through cell walls and sometimes break them down. All right, give me another one.
Plant-like protists.
Awesome. Plant-like protists. What do?
They're autotrophs.
They're autotrophs, and they make their own food. We've got plant-like protists. We've got fungus-like protists. What's the last one? Raise your hand if you know. Animal-like protists. What do? Eat. They're heterotrophs, and they cannot make their own food. Are slime molds heterotrophs or autotrophs? Hetero. Remember that. All right, so here's a picture of a variety of plant-like protists, animal-like protists, and fungus-like. And obviously you could see, well, hopefully it's obvious, you could see in the picture that kelp is not your traditional single-celled protist, yes? Okay. And algae, how many of you heard that word before? And what did you think of when you heard that word? Immediately. You think of SpongeBob, what else? Plants. Well, now you're learning that an algae is actually a protist, okay, that functions like a plant. How about, have you heard of plankton?
Yeah.
Definitely, because you see SpongeBob, yeah. So plankton is also a type of protist, okay, which functions like a plant. All right, so let's talk about how they feed and move, and hopefully tomorrow in the lab you get to actually visualize these behaviors from my concoction that I've got brewing there since first quarter. So 1 drop of water can contain 1,000,000 protists. Yeah, pretty scary. And that drop of water came from the fountain. Of course I added soil, you know. So if I leave water there, but this is, my students took observations, I gave them that jar, and they monitored, you know, ecological change over a period of time. And now you get to see it. So, looking at these structures, and you're familiar with some of them, or you've heard of them from before, who could tell me a structure that involves movement or feeding? Yes? Cilia. Where's that? Hair-like extensions. And I'll zoom into the picture, and you could see a bunch of little hair-like extensions, and you'll see that that allows the organism to move. Flagella. Well, here's one, and then if you have a lot of them, they call them zooflagellates. So you see the picture at the top left, You see one tail-like extension, and they whip it around for movement, and then you have many flagellos. Wow, I'm impressed. Pseudopodia or pseudopods. These are protists that can actually warp their cytoplasm, and this is what you want to see under the microscope, where they look like a blob and they redefine themselves in order to move around and feed. If we're really lucky, you see one type of protist feeding on another. I know, I can't wait either.